UK premiere of Turning Point by British composer Colin Matthews. He spoke of ecstatic intensity. It goes to most wonderful ethereal sound work. Just opposite, actually, to the other side of the wall, thoughtfully down the orchestra. I know how much he was looking forward to hearing his work. Here he is, just coming to the stage now to take the applause from an orchestra with whom he's worked several times before. They've performed other works, but it's just this film, in fact, it's called The Flex Bridges back in February. He's shaking the hand of the leader and of Dr. Thomas AutoGuard as well. Colin Matthews, Benjamin Britten's last assistant. He's produced several editions of completions of previously unpublished Britten works, and he's chairman of the Britten Estate and musical director of the UK's Foundation. So he is having a very, very busy year, as you can imagine. But what a wonderful moment this must be for him tonight. Making his way off stage now with Thomas AutoGuard through a packed stage full of violins. I should mention the setup on stage today. Not just first and second violins for that piece, but third violins too. But next tonight we're going to hear Prokofiev's second violin concerto, first performed in 1935, and a work requiring staggering virtuosity. The soloist tonight is one of the UK's finest musicians, Daniel Hope, award-winning violinist, author, producer, festival director, musical activist. It's always a pleasure and sometimes a surprise to see what Daniel does next. Tonight, though, we're going to hear him perform one of his favourite works.
This piece is incredible for so many reasons. I mean, it has everything that a violinist could wish for. It has beautiful melodies, it's very virtuosic, and yet it's very different to the other great concertos of the 20th century, that it has an energy which is so uniquely Prokofiev. And he wrote it on his travels. He began it in Paris. There's even a quote from Leon Bose in it. It has a kind of French nostalgic feeling in the first movement. He returned to Russia. It has a sort of icy Russian coolness. It has an amazing dance movement in the third movement. It was premiered in Madrid, so he added castanets to the performance. I mean, it's an assimilation of what he was going through, what he was experiencing in 1935. So it's a very biographic piece. I'm a huge Prokofiev fan, so it's a joy to play.
Now, Prokofiev wrote this piece for a violinist called Robert Sorkin, with whom he then went on tour, I believe. And you have had the opportunity to speak to what must have been a rather elderly Robert Sorkin by that stage.
That's
in
right.
his life.
It was in the early 90s. I met him on a couple of occasions. It was extraordinary, and you feel like you're touching out to history, and you're actually part of history. And he was an incredibly charming man who had very specific ideas about the tempos in which we should go. And I remember what he said to me was, don't take it too fast. And when I first started playing this piece, I was a real youngster, and of course played everything much too fast. And now I'm really beginning to heed those words, because it's a piece that is very technical. It pushes really the boundary of what is possible technically. And yet if you take it too fast, you run into trouble. So every time I go on stage, I think of those words, and I think of this very charming friendship.
Did he give you any insight into the way Prokofiev worked?
He said he was a taskmaster. He was somebody that didn't mince his words. He said exactly what he thought. And there is no accent in the piece that is not there for a reason. And therefore any accent that you do that's not in the score was absolutely just out of bounds. And he said, be as exact as you possibly can. And if you do that and follow it, it's a more visceral experience for the performer and I think for the audience.
Fascinating talking to Daniel Hope earlier about that wonderful privilege of being able to almost hear the voice of Prokofiev himself via the violinist for whom this piece was written. And I asked Daniel if he felt constrained by the knowledge that Prokofiev was very strict about the way orchestra played, but not at all. He said, no, it was still an absolute pleasure. He's coming to the stage now. I should mention that the television cameras are in tonight. You will be able to see this from on BBC 4 on the 4th of August. Daniel taking a bow now. Thomas AutoGuard taking up his baton to perform Prokofiev's second violin concerto. Thank you.